This one's a little bit of history about maybe me personally, or certainly about me personally, and a little bit sensitive. I don't like talking about myself per se, but I think giving you this information and therefore the perspective that flows from that should, again, hopefully add to your confidence in who you're associated with and the foundation points that we're built on. I've been in this industry for longer than I care to admit. In fact, my first intersection with it was when I was 14. And a neighbor that had moved into our neighborhood was the expat general manager for, I'll say, Nature's Sunshine products. That was the first international market that Nature's Sunshine had gone into, was New Zealand. It was small, it was unknown. The industry was unknown. In fact, in New Zealand those days, the only other company that was there was Amway, and it was only about 18 months old at that stage. So early stage industry, early stage company. And it was so small that me, as a 14, 15, 16-year-old after-school job high schooler with the entire production department for Nature's Sunshine. I learned a couple of things from there. One, that natural products are powerful. When you, during your school vacation, spend 8 or 10 hours a day operating what's known as a Type 8 manual encapsulating machine, putting the herbs in the capsules and do that quality control, you learned that those natural ingredients have a powerful effect on your body. There was in those days, don't know if there still is, a product that Nature's Sunshine had called LBS2. 2 indicating it was version 2. LBS, in case you're wondering, stands for lower bowel stimulant. In other words, it was their encapsulated version of Nature's Tea. And so I'm in the encapsulation room working the semi-automatic, mostly manual encapsulating machine. Dust is flying around everywhere. I've got my hair net and I had hair in those days, so a net was necessary, and my mask and my gloves and all the usual health and safety things. But as with the mask, around the edge of your nose and the folds of your face where the mask is, you get all sweaty and hot, the dust begins to accumulate and your body absorbs that dust, and guess what? The effect of those natural products and ingredients begins to have an impact on your system. LBS2, unfortunately, was one of the better sellers, just like Nature's Tea is for us. We couldn't do LBS2, encapsulating or bottling for that matter, for longer than about a half shift, 4 hours, even though it required about, from memory, about 3 days of full shifts a week to get done. We had to break it up into smaller sections because the effect of the product attached to our sweat, absorbed through our skin, was such that we spent more time in another little room than in the actual encapsulating room that had the equipment to prevent that happening. I learned that natural products, well manufactured, well quality controlled, actually have a significant effect. It formed an impression on me. Products work. Testimonial of one, me, and that product at that time was unambiguous. The other thing I learned was this, back to the fact it was a whole new industry and a whole new market. In fact, New Zealand had only just opened up to be more outward looking from being a very closed market, which meant that it was a new industry. No one came in with any great experience, or I've been successful in company ABC or XYZ, Z, whatever the case may be. Everyone started equally. Everyone started with no experience. Everyone started with no experience in the industry, just their personal experience. And I watched as employee number one, albeit young and naive, but I watched. I had a bad habit or a good habit of just observing and trying to learn and pay attention. After about 2 or 3 years, there were 4 people that rose to the very tippy-top ranks in this company in New Zealand. And here's their background. One was a school teacher. One was an insurance salesperson. In those days, you kind of ran from the insurance guy. Now he's your financial planner, but in those days, he was kind of like a used car salesman. One was a serial entrepreneur, and one was, excuse the phrase, a housewife, a home executive, if you will. All of them started at the same place. None of them had industry experience. And they all went on to become probably the equivalent of what would be Diamond in Unicity today. That was instructive for me because I looked at them and said, holy smoke, these guys are enjoying great success. These guys are blowing me away in terms of as I was stuffing things in envelopes and checks in those days, etc., blew me away, some of the decimal places in those checks as a high school or teenager. And then I began to think, well, okay, what's the common denominators here? And here's the lesson that stuck with me over 4+ decades in the industry. nothing to do with particular expertise other than these three things. Number one, they were prepared to work hard. Nothing, lack of skill, lack of experience can easily be replaced by just hard work. Number two, they loved people. They loved engaging with people, helping people. They were outward-looking folks in terms of relationships. They weren't that kind of person that's like kind of put offish. They just engaged with people. They liked them. And two, they were looking for, and when found, followed a process, a system. Now, it kind of split two and two. Two had one upline and two had another upline. Two very different approaches, both of which were successful across four very different skill sets, but all four of them, even independent of more other qualified people, found great success because they looked for, latched onto, and followed a process that was proven to work. Yes, it needed adjusting here and there based on local circumstances and skill sets and economy and blah, 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 but they understood or learned very quickly the need to adapt to and follow some process that would enhance their skill set, that would accelerate their learning, and that could be duplicated amongst their people. All three of those you have at your disposal. All three of those you can and should be able to generate. Can you work hard? Do you love people? And are you looking for and following some sort of process that augments your personal productivity and provides leverage and duplication? Wonderful experience for me amongst a whole bunch of others as to the value that this business represents if you lock in on those things that make the difference. And those things that make the difference aren't complicated, aren't unique to those individuals. They had very different backgrounds, but they all reached similar levels of success. I would add this though. It was interesting to me, I took a few years off and then came back to watch how they had transformed after those couple of years off. Two had continued to grow and be successful. One was entirely out of the business, and one was just blah, blah, blah. The two that continued to be successful stayed with their three qualifications and locked in more on number three. In fact, they were now promoting a system that they had refined for local market, local circumstances, and stayed true to what got them there. The one that had left, with all due respect to him, in my observation as a young 20-something-year-old, let his ego get in the way and thought that it was all about him and started to believe his own press releases. Don't do that. The fourth began to get into critic mode. You're either building, or you're managing, or you're excusing, or you're blaming. Spend more time building, a little bit of time managing when necessary. Don't slide into the excusing, it's someone else's fault, it's the comp plan's fault, why can't we have this product? And certainly don't get into the blaming mode. Don't go to the negative side of that spectrum. That's a continuum that in one lunch I had with Dick DeVos, he said he's observed across the decades at Amway. Those that stay in the building mode, build and are successful. Those that add a little bit of management in time and in the right priority can grow an organization. Don't ever get into excusing or blaming mode. Keep an eye on that continuum, because of those four, one was wholly unsuccessful and lost a significant business. Well, two of them did actually. One because his ego got in the way because he got into blaming and excusing mode, and the other because he stayed there and was smart enough to at least collect some check, but was in blaming and excuse mode all the way through. Anyway, long story short, I learned the attributes, the commonalities of success from a common start amongst a diverse group of individuals. Very instructive for me. I share it with you for your benefit, to share my observations. Thanks and have a good day.